Hi everybody, it's Shane again. Welcome back to my channel. I'd like to talk to you about the big question. The one that a lot of the people are looking for answers to right now. What is keto? Let me start out by saying I'm not a doctor, not even close. So anything I say here, please back up with seeing your doctor first, and don't take what I say as medical gospel. Also, if you ask 100 people what keto is, you're going to get 100 different versions of the keto lifestyle. Because what works for me might not work for someone else. The basis of the diet is the same, but there are an untold number of variations you can do on the keto diet. So don't bother writing comments if you're already on keto, blasting me for my version of keto, because, well, this is what's working for me. So, keto is a low-carb diet, but it differs from other low-carb diets in that long-term it is a high-fat, medium-protein, low-carb diet. A lot of other low-carb diets start out high-fat and then lower and lower and lower the fat and raise the carbs until you stop losing weight and then they back off from it. This is, this is how you're going to live from now on. High-fat, medium-protein, low-carb. This is good for your body. It's not just for losing weight. It's for a lot of other things, so we don't back off. What does the body do with sugars and carbs when you eat? Your body's looking for fuel all the time. Even when you're sleeping, your internal organs are working away, your heart's pumping away, your liver's working, your kidneys are working. They all need fuel. Your brain needs fuel to keep functioning and dreaming and everything. So your body is constantly looking for fuel. Okay, so your body is going to fuel itself with sugars first. And carbohydrates turn into sugars. Actually, they produce glucose and insulin when you eat carbohydrates, and the insulin is like the little boat that carries the glucose around your body, and the insulin is the sugar that it burns for energy. Burn being not a good term, but we're going to use that for now. So if you eat sugar, your body's going to take that first. I mean, that's why when you eat sugar, you get that sugar rush, because it is so easy for your body to process that it just goes straight to doing the job. Carbohydrates, still very easy, but it has to break them down into the glucose and insulin first, and then it uses those. So first it's going to use whatever just raw sugar you give it. Then it's going to use the carbohydrates. So we're feeding ourselves this constantly on the normal American diet. Not just American, but our normal 21st century diet, I should say. So why not starve yourself? That makes sense, right? Bring in no calories, you'll lose weight. Well, through millions of years of evolution, our bodies have developed a way to keep us alive in between hunts. You can't find food today, you can't find food tomorrow, you can't find food the next day. Your body is going to fight to stay alive. So it's going to hold on to as much of those fat reserves as it has until you kill another animal or until you find some nuts and berries, and then it can burn off that again. So your body wants to keep you alive. So if you starve it, you're going to hold on to as much fat as you can to lengthen the amount of time that you can live on this earth. So starving, not a good solution. It's harder to lose weight when you starve yourself. So that brings us to ketosis. Ketosis is a way to starve your body of sugars, carbohydrates, which turn into sugars, and still fuel your body, but fuel it with those fat reserves. Now, since you're not starving yourself and your body is going to recognize, hey, this guy's getting plenty of calories to live, I have enough to keep going and to function, but where'd that sugar go? Oh my God, I'm used to getting sugar and running everything off of that. It's gone. Well, once you finally reach what's called ketosis, it's teaching your body, reteaching your body to go back to the way it was back in the caveman days. It's going to burn off these ketones instead of glucose. So, what is a ketone? Well, when your body starts breaking down fat in your liver, it produces ketones. Ketones are a fuel, just like the glucose was, but it's a much more efficient fuel. These ketones that are produced from burning the stored fat and basically processing it through your liver, it's a great fuel for your focus in your brain. Your brain loves working off of ketones. And I can tell you, the first few days on this lifestyle, I couldn't think straight at all because my brain was looking for that glucose. It was looking for the sugar and going, where's my fuel? Oh my God, I don't know what to do. And I couldn't remember words. I would walk into a room and not know why I walked in there. But after my body reached ketosis, my brain started to get more focused and was a better machine than it was before when it was running just off of carbohydrates and sugars. So it does give you more focus once you do this diet and get onto ketosis. Reaching ketosis is the level you get when your body does start burning fat for fuel, and you've done that flip over, that tricking your body into switching from normal sugar, running on normal sugar, and switching to running on stored fat. The keto diet controls blood sugar. If you're pre-diabetic or have type 2 diabetes, this is a great side effect because this whole concept of eating, it doesn't let your insulin spike. There's plenty of artificial sugars that we eat on diets that actually spike your insulin just like you're eating sugar. So those need to be avoided, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Once your body becomes accustomed to this new body chemistry, you'll gain mental focus. Like I said before, when you're trying to get into ketosis, you might get a little scatterbrained. But you will, once you reach ketosis, become more focused. You'll have more energy because, as I said before, ketones are a better source all around for fuel for your body. So you'll start to find yourself less tired and more active, which is really what we want. And that's a great side effect because if you're more active, you're going to lose even more weight. Plus fat. Since you will be giving yourself plenty of fats by eating more fat on this high-fat, medium-protein, low-carb diet, your body will feel full and satisfied longer. That will make your carb cravings a lot lower. I'm not saying I don't have carb cravings. I have ways to deal with it, but nothing like on other diets that I've been on before where I just thought I was going to die if I didn't have a plate of spaghetti. Having this higher amount of fat, it definitely curbs your hunger and your carb cravings, and you're purposefully eating fattier foods like fattier meats and fattier fish. Doesn't mean you're eating unhealthy foods, but you're eating, your salmon's going to have a lot more fat than your trout, let's say. You want to eat the fattier fish and the fattier meats. So where did this diet come from? Ketosis and ketones, and they sound like something that get measured in a cult or to find out if you're a Jedi. Well, that's not it. No, I'm going to get comments about that. And I'm a geek, yes, I know. Well, we ate that way before we were civilized. I mean, our bodies just were built on eating protein, fat. Look at the Inuits. I mean, they eat blubber to help them get through the winters. The kills that we made as prehistoric man, it wasn't just protein. They were eating the fat off of these animals, and they were eating the berries. They were eating the nuts. They weren't eating processed sugars. They weren't eating carbohydrates. They weren't growing grains that they produced into breads. So we developed this way. But this diet actually came about in the early 1900s as a treatment for severe epilepsy. And it's actually still widely used for children who have uncontrolled epilepsy today. So this diet originated in the early 1900s. It is not just some new fad. Isn't eating all that bacon hard on your heart? That is probably the number 2 question I get. The keto diet improves triglycerides and cholesterol levels, most associated with arterial buildup. Low carb, high fat diets give you an increased HDL and decreases your LDL particle concentration compared to low fat diets. If you're on blood pressure meds and you start taking this diet and you start living this lifestyle, you better keep an eye on your levels, not because they're going to rise, but because they're going to lower. You may get to a point where you don't need those meds anymore, and if you're still taking them, your blood pressure might get so low you might pass out. So, I warn you, things may improve. This diet is the opposite of what we've been told our whole lives. They've been telling us low fat, less protein, more vegetables, more fruit. I don't eat fruit on this diet. None. Berries, yes. Berries are low sugar. Fruit is just sugar. No fruit. And that's probably the thing I miss almost as much as spaghetti is an orange. But we've been told our whole life to cut fat. And if you eat less levels of fat and are still eating carbs, you're going to have problems. The doctors just have been telling us to eliminate the wrong thing. They've been telling us, cut back on the fat, cut back on the fat. Oh my God, your heart can't take it. They've been telling us to eliminate the wrong thing. You should cut the carbs, increase the fat. So, other benefits of this newfound energy and clarity and lower blood sugar and healthier heart. I've seen less acne. My skin has improved. My sexual drive has gotten higher. I've read about people who've actually measured their testosterone levels that have increased dramatically by only being on this diet for a couple of months. Swelling goes down. The very first thing you do when you start this diet is it sheds water weight, and it cuts your bloatedness. I didn't know I was bloated, but I went on this diet for about 2 weeks, and I looked down at my ankles, and they were tiny. I dropped a shoe size in the first month. A shoe size. I didn't know I had fat and bloated feet. I just thought that's what my feet look like. But you'll notice your arms thinning out, your ankles thinning out, your feet thinning out, and actually it's a good indication that you're doing something wrong on this diet. When all of a sudden you start getting bloated, then you might want to look at your food intake and see if you've accidentally been taking in something with higher carbs, because that's kind of easy to do if you're not being very strict about it. The dangers of this diet. Well, there are some. In the beginning, you can get what's called the keto flu. Happened to my wife. The first 4 or 5 days, she had all the symptoms of flu and headache and stuffed up, and she was just miserable. But she knew ahead of time it could be coming, and it is your body fighting, switching over from burning sugar and burning carbohydrates to burning the stored fat. Your body is going to fight that at first because it's not used to it. It wants the easy way. You've been giving me the easy sugar to burn. I love it. I love it. I love it. Don't stop. Don't stop. It's like getting off a drug. Sugar is a drug. But once you get off of it, you start feeling much better, and you get more mentally focused, and the energy level gets up. But in the beginning, you could get what is called the keto flu. And like I said before, you get a little scatterbrained in the beginning again because your brain's looking for that quick sugar fix and it's used to it and it's not getting it anymore. Long-term danger on this diet is that you could be lacking in electrolytes. You want to make sure you're taking a multivitamin. Some magnesium will help. It's also good for sleep. Uh, Calcium and potassium. You're not going to be eating bananas on this diet, so make sure you're getting potassium sources from things like spinach. But it wouldn't hurt if you were doing some sort of a pill. But I just make sure I get plenty of potassium out of other vegetables. Bad one if you're not getting the right nutrients. There have been people who report hair loss, men and women. Don't let that happen to you. Make sure before you start this diet, read up on what you do to avoid that. It was not an issue with me. I never lost any hair. Neither did my wife. But it is a possible side effect. So what do I eat? Well, I eat meat. The fattier, the better. I eat leafy greens, lettuce, spinach, that kind of thing. Above ground vegetables. What are above ground vegetables? Well, things that are grown above ground. Broccoli, cauliflower, things like that. High fat dairy. Now, that one always throws people because you go on a diet and, definitely switch to skim milk, right? No. Skim milk has higher carbohydrates. You want the more fat, the better. That's what this is. So switch to heavy whipping cream. Heavy cream in your coffee. It's great. Also keeps me full for about an hour. If I have a couple tablespoons of heavy cream in my coffee, I'm not hungry again for another hour. So it's also kind of like a snack. But don't eat the low-fat cheeses. The part skim mozzarella. You want to avoid that. If that's all you see in the store, yeah, okay, grab it. It's not going to kill you. But you need to lean toward the higher fat cheeses. Will butter. If you have margarine in your house, throw it away. It's not good for anybody. Not on a diet, not anywhere. That stuff will kill you. Real butter. Good quality butter, good quality milk, good quality cheeses, high fat. Nuts are fine. The higher fat in the nut, the better. Macadamia nuts, great example. It's a lot of calories in a lot of nuts, and you got to be careful of that because you can't just do this diet and assume you're not gonna count your calories, especially not in the beginning. But they're great for you. No fruits, but berries. And I love berries and cream, or you can make whipped cream out of that wonderful high-fat cream you got sitting in the refrigerator. Put a little artificial sweetener, which we'll talk about the artificial sweeteners in a second, and make yourself some whipped cream. Avocados, that's a huge one. I mean, they grow on trees. They might even be a fruit. But technically, that's one you can have. Fruits you can have. You lemon, lime, that's fine. Again, if it's lower sugar, you can have it. Avocados are great, though. High fat, very filling, a lot of nutrients. Sweeteners. You got to stick with sweeteners that don't spike your insulin level. Erythritol is my favorite sweetener. That and liquid stevia. Erythritol is the chemical name for it, but there's a lot of different brand names. I use Swerve. They make one Swerve that it's granular sugar, and if a recipe calls for 1 cup of sugar, you use 1 cup of Swerve. It has powdered sugar. They even have brown sugar. It tastes just like brown sugar. Amazing. It's just great. But it's about 3/4 the sweetness of regular white cane sugar. So if something calls for a cup of sugar and I use a cup of erythritol or a cup of Swerve, I won't up it to more because you can have some stomach issues if you have too much of this stuff. But I might, if I want something to be a little sweeter and I don't want to add more erythritol, I will add a little liquid stevia to bump up the sweetness. Liquid stevia comes from the stevia leaf. It's a natural sugar, but your body doesn't treat it like sugar. It's what's called a sugar alcohol that your body doesn't process like other sugars. Doesn't spike your insulin, but you do have to be careful because a lot of the granular or powdered stevias use fillers that can spike your insulin. If you see maltodextrin in the ingredients in an artificial sugar, stay away from it. I just use the liquid stevia. You look at the ingredients and it says ingredients stevia. Just stick with that. That's great for in your coffee. A couple squirts of that in your coffee, and that's just what I do. Other fats like coconut oil, olive oil, high-fat salad dressing, saturated fats. Yeah, they tell you stay away from saturated fats, right? No. Eat your saturated fats. Your body will know how to deal with them if you're not also mixing them with high carbs. It's not going to cause you the problems that you think it's going to cause. The high-fat salad dressings, you are literally going to the store and looking. Don't buy a diet light salad dressing. Buy something that's got the higher fats. You want to look for the lowest carbohydrates that you can when you're looking at the ingredients. But just find a good salad dressing that you like, that's high in fat, that's not diet, and that's very useful. I use olive oil. I even deep fry in lard. Yeah, I'm probably alone in that one, but a lot of people use the coconut oil or will deep fry in other oils. But there's nothing wrong with cooking in lard on this diet. It actually works very well. So if I deep fry something, I head to the Walmart and get a big tub of lard. They still sell it. Couldn't believe it. I got some in my cabinet right now. What don't I eat? I don't eat grains. I don't eat sugar. All the different types of sugars. Honey, agave, corn syrup, maple syrup. Anything that has the word syrup in it is probably a no-no. Fruit. I don't eat fruit. There's some exceptions, some lower sugar fruits like lemon, lime, but that's really any of the fruit really. No tubers, so that's no potatoes, no yams, nothing in that family. High sugar vegetables. Now this is where some people will disagree with me, but I don't eat peas, I don't eat carrots. They're the higher sugar vegetables that tend to affect your blood sugar. They spike your insulin because they have more sugar in them. I don't eat beans or any legumes. So some people on keto will eat a no sugar peanut butter. I don't do that because it's a legume. I don't eat refried beans. Some people do that. But again, this is where it comes in that people do this diet differently. If it fits within a person's daily macros, they might eat a little grain. They might eat some of these beans. I do not. I just stay completely clear away from them for one reason, because I eat a little of it and it's going to make me crave that. And then I may not have enough control to stop myself, and I might just fall off the wagon and say, well, if I ate a little of that grain, forget about it. I'll eat a piece of bread. It might fit within my day's macros if I don't eat anything. And then it's just a slippery slope for me. So I stay away from all of it entirely. So I said we were going to be looking at our calories. Well, we're also going to be looking at our macros. Macro is short for macronutrients. If you're doing keto for weight loss, you're going to want to track these macros. Remember that keto is high in fat, moderate in protein, and very low in carbs. Your nutrient intake should be something around 70% fats, 25% protein, and 5% carbohydrates. That's the numbers that I stick with. Other people will modify that depending on what works with them. And You can change it around, but that's what I would start with, at least until you know what your body is gonna want. Uh, Net carbs, that's an important concept. You will look at a nutritional panel on the back of something like that salad dressing, that high-fat salad dressing you were just looking at. And let's say you see that it is 4 carbs in a serving, 2 tablespoon serving, 4 carbs. Well, if then below that you see that there's 2 fiber, your net carbs are really just 2 net carbs. You're counting net carbs, not entire carbs. So if something is high in fiber and high in carbs, subtract the 2 and what you're left with is your net carb. So how do you track these macros? Well, there's a bunch of different apps out there. Good free apps. Some of them are free to start, and if you want their advanced features, you can pay. But I've never paid for an app for this. I use MyFitnessPal. They have this huge database of things that already exist, foods that already exist. You can, if you're buying a food or an ingredient to a recipe, you can scan the barcode with this and it'll just find everything for you. It gives you a chance to build meals that maybe you have over and over again, so you don't want to have to type all the things in the meal. Just say, oh, okay, I'm going to have this meal again at this size, and it just puts it in there. Or you make your own recipes. You can put them in an ingredient at a time and say, okay, this entire recipe is made for 8 people, divides it up per servings, does all the net carbs, the fats, the protein. It does it all for you. So I'm not shilling for MyFitnessPal, but it's what I've actually used for years, even before I was doing the keto lifestyle. Everything that goes in my mouth goes into MyFitnessPal. You just, it's better to know than not to know. Even if you're going over or you're cheating or whatever, don't try to fool yourself. You're not fooling anybody. Put it in there. Don't forget that you cooked with oils, you cooked with butter. That's wonderful. It's great. You should be cooking with butter, but don't forget to add it to what you consumed in a day. People will skip the cream they put in their coffee. Oh, it's just a little cream. Well, guess what? That was fats that you want to record for your macros. That was calories that you want to know how much by the end of the day you've consumed. So if you level off and stop losing weight, you can look at your history of these and go, oh, well, look at that. I'm taking in 3,000 calories and I'm not losing weight. Oh, big surprise. The recommended diet for the average American is 2,000 calories. I take in 1,800 calories a day. My wife takes in 1,650 right now to lose weight. So the amount of food you take in still counts. The difference is, since you are taking in more fat, you don't feel as hungry. You don't get that Jones as much. If you do get a Jones for chocolate, there are some amazing chocolates out there now. It's not like it was 10, 15 years ago, but there's chocolates with erythritol that taste just like regular chocolate. There's things you can bake. You can use almond flour to bake. You can use coconut flour to bake muffins and breads. And no, they don't taste the same, but you know what? They will get you past some of these Joneses for the carbs. But the high fat will also curb that need for the carbohydrates. So everything that goes in my mouth, like I said, goes into MyFitnessPal. That way I know what's happening. I know this video was a little long. Sorry about that. I hope you got something from it. Just if you get anything from here, don't listen to everything you hear about the keto diet on YouTube and online, because what works for one person might not work for another. You're going to run into people who say you absolutely can only eat grass-fed organic meats or this diet won't work, or even try to make you feel guilty for eating normal meats that you bought at the regular supermarket instead of spending a fortune going to Trader Joe's or or one of those high-end markets. Yeah, it's great to do that, but I'm a Walmart guy. I do my food shopping at Walmart. I buy my meat at my work because I work at a meat plant, and I buy my groceries at a super Walmart. I can't imagine coming out of one of these high-end supermarkets at $50 a bag and sustaining my life. You don't have to be rich to be on this diet. You can do this diet the Walmart way and still succeed. But if it works for me, it may not work for you. Variations on this diet are important. Variations to work with your body type and what works for your life and lifestyle. That's what's important. You need to find that for yourself. And if some of what I said doesn't work for you, great. Do the things that work for you. But anybody who tells you you have to do this, you have to do that. There are even people who eat some carbohydrates that are bad for you and still stay on this diet. That one's one I'm against. People say, oh, okay, I have these low-carb tortillas, and look, there are only 2 net carbs in them. And I look at the ingredients, and they say wheat flour. I'm like, yeah, but we don't eat flour. What are you doing eating that thing? And they go, hey, that fits in with my macros for the day. It works for me. Fine. If that works for you, that's how you do your version of this diet, then great. I don't do it that way. That's great too. So you find your way and just make sure you do it, do something, and stick with it, and everything will be fine. Well, thank you for listening. Please subscribe down below. There it is, down below to my channel. And I'll try to keep coming up with more content and be of good cheer.